breakout session of the evening. We are with team 6369, the Dinosaurs, and they are going to talk about what no one tells you about your rookie season. All right, kids, take it away.
Hello, my name is Rebecca. In this presentation, we're going to be talking about what no one tells you about your rookie season, and we are team 6369, the Dinosaurs.
So we are from Eden Prairie, Minnesota. Our team's been around for 10 years. It's kind of been passed around from like as people come on and come off, you know, it goes down, down and down and keeps living. Things our team has done in the past is we've been to the Minnesota State Tournament and have been three times finalist alliance. We've been to qualifying tournaments, 2 times finalist alliance, 3 times winning alliance. We've been to North Super Regional as a participant, and Detroit, went to the Detroit World Tournament and ranked top 30 teams. Some awards our teams have gotten are the Rockwell Collins Innovative Award 3 times, Judges Award 3 times, the I can't see it, Zoom is blocking, the Design Award, the Control Award 2 times, the Inspire Award, the Motivate Award, and the Think Award.
All right, so in this fantastic presentation, we're going to cover goals, meetings, notebook, outreach, robot, budgeting, fundraising. So basically, all the points that are going to make you a successful team.
So starting small. As your rookie team, it's really important to start with the small things so you can be grounded and be really successful in the long term. One of those things include effective team communication. Before your season starts, you're going to want to make sure that you have everyone's phone number or email so you can easily and effectively send out information to all your team members. By doing this, miscommunication can be easily eliminated and you can avoid unnecessary problems. I would strongly recommend this for when you're just starting out so everyone's on the same page and you can effectively communicate information. Go ahead and digitally connect with your missing members. This will help while everyone has the same information and knows where your team's at. So if somebody is missing from a meeting, go ahead and send them a blast about what you did and what you completed in that meeting. Also, at the beginning of this season, make sure you gauge your members' commitment levels so you're all on the same page. This includes seeing what everyone kind of wants to achieve out at the end of the season. It sees where all your competitive levels are at. So you don't want somebody on your team that's like, oh my gosh, we need to get to Worlds. And then somebody else on the team that's like, I just want to reach out. Kind of get your whole team on the same page at the beginning of the season so in the long term, you're all on the same track. Next, being independently efficient. This means that you're able to work together and be a cohesive team without mentors or adults in the room. This means setting up routines and habits that you're used to doing that can be patterns throughout your season, and you know what you do when you're in your meetings. For your meetings, not every single team member needs to be there. I think this is a really strategic way to go about your meetings. You can have just your notebook people meeting together so they're working on one aspect, or your robot people just building together. So you're all focusing on one aspect at a time and you're not too spread thin. And you can really be very efficient when you have meetings like that. How can you, as an individual, contribute to your team's overall success? This goes with kind of figuring out what your individual role is on the team and seeing how you play the biggest part for your team and their success. For roles, I would start assigning those at the very beginning of the season. They don't have to be concrete, permanent roles like you are the notebook person, you do the notebook. Strongly don't suggest that. You just want to have like basic things like responsibilities on the team that you send out so everyone's on the same page, and that's how you'll contribute to your team throughout the season. Next, organizational importance. Organization is key for your team to be organized. This kind of goes with having your habits and routines throughout the season. So just setting up certain routines that you do at the beginning of your meeting, like going over the goals and things you want to get done, or what you do at the very end of your meetings when you wrap up or you have cleaning up jobs. Another part of organization is keeping your tasks on track. This is about setting deadlines for your team before tournaments or before setting certain things for your outreach events and making sure that you're keeping the season going and not getting stuck because you're not doing anything. Go ahead and be prepared for the long run. This is about setting long-term goals along with short-term goals, so then you kind of have an idea of where you're shooting for and you know where you're going to end up at the very end. And the most important thing about organization, do not procrastinate. For all my years of FTC, procrastination has never helped me, okay? It's never helped anyone. I would suggest by not procrastinating some strategies, go ahead and divide up the the workload and make that one of your habits by assigning different team members different jobs and responsibilities. And another thing is, if you can't do an entry or can't do something, communicate that with your team. Let them know, because every team member is willing to help each other out and take up the workload and pull the weight too.
So next, we're going to talk a little bit about meetings. So we've divided meetings into three kind of big picture time frames. So first is before the kickoff, and that's looking at this week right up in here. And as Rebecca mentioned, this is when you're going to talk to your team members about your commitment. So you're going to figure out how much is each team member willing to commit to robotics, and also you want to work out scheduling. So is there a consistent 1, 2, 3 days a week that your team is all able to meet? So you've got to figure out when people have practices, when people have rehearsals, things like that. So you figure out when you're going to meet. Then post kickoff, as Rebecca said, you don't have to have every single person at every meeting. A lot of times, the whole group together, things can get very, very fun and not super duper productive. And when you have subgroups, like you just have the notebook or you just have software, a lot of stuff can get done. That being said, it's still a good idea to have at least one whole group meeting a week so that everyone is accountable and that you still know where everyone is and how everyone's little part contributes to the big goal. And also you have crunch time, and these are like the 1 to 2 weeks before your tournament. And this means that it's probably not a good idea to make a whole lot of outside commitments on yourself, because extra time is probably going to have to put into the robotics and the robot and the interviews. This is the time where you practice driving, you practice the interview, you make sure all your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed. So make sure you leave time to make your robot, your presentation, everything as polished as possible.
Notebook formatting. There's a couple ways that you can go about your notebook for your rookie year. You can handwrite your notebook or you type it. Both of them are legal options. But during a digital season, I would strongly recommend typing your notebook so then everyone can contribute it individually from their houses and homes. This way, not everyone has to be there to handwrite it, and especially with germs and handing it off. I would recommend typing up your notebook, but some strategies to incorporate both of them. If you want to do handwritten for different math equations, or if you're doing different drawings of the robot, definitely draw those because judges like to see them, but you can take pictures of them and insert them into your documents on your notebook. That's something that's worked for us for a really long time, so I'd recommend that for any new teams there too. For your notebook, make sure it's really easy to navigate with your layout. Navigation is key for your notebook, especially in your rookie year. Being able to know where you are at throughout your entire notebook, or if you open to a random page, you can see clearly where you are. I would make it easy to navigate by making there clear, precise sections throughout your notebook so that it's very organized and neat, instead of just kind of like one long notebook that just has things here and there. You can divide it up into your meeting notes and your outreach notes, or for your robot you have a 3D printing section or a CAD section. It's kind of up to you, and you can do whatever tailors and fits to your team, but those are some suggestions. For your notebook, you need to document everything. The notebook is designed to document every single detail of your team's journey throughout the season, so anything that you do, document it. I'm talking about when you go to outreach events, or when you're planning something, or if you're doing details, or if you email a sponsor, or you're setting up meetings, every single detail should be documented. Last but not least, photos are extremely important for the notebook, and a super easy strategy to make it easy to tell the story throughout your notebook. Photos are super helpful when a judge opens to a random page. They don't have to read those 3 paragraphs to understand what's happening. They can look at your one 3D printed part that's printed and put on the page, and they'll be like, oh, okay, that's what this page talks about, and they can easily flip through and see what the story is. How to make your notebook stand out. These are some tips and tricks that aren't necessarily laid out in the game manual, but have really helped a lot of teams in the long run. So these are some little things to bring it to the next level. Your notebook binder is your team color. This is a super easy one for rookie teams to start out with. A lot of teams will just go with the classic black or white, but it's easy to spice it up and like maybe take a red notebook or like a neon green notebook. This will make your notebook stand out against the other ones, and it's just a little thing. You also want your design process to be present on every engineering page. This is just an overall general rule of robotics too, that they can see the design process throughout the entire engineering journey, and That's something that will make your team stand out too. You want to be able to choose quality over quantity and be extremely detailed and precise. This will make your team stand out because a lot of rookie teams will just kind of like put what they need to into the notebook and they'll just call it done. But if you really take the extra time to put in those details and put in the things that other teams don't consider, that will make you stand out. Also, consider incorporating your team colors into the notebook. This is a super easy way. If you have photos, you can put your team colors border around the edge, or if you have your team logo at the bottom, or if you're changing some of the text color to your team colors. This will help it brand your notebook. So if somebody's like, oh, that's a Green Girl's notebook because there's green all over it, or you know what I mean? So try incorporating colors into your notebook. And then last but not least, every notebook has a page header. This is super helpful for navigation and layout. So then when you open to a random page, right there on the header, boom, you know exactly where you are, you know exactly what you're doing. Strongly suggest putting headers in your notebook your first year. That concludes that.
All right, so outreach is really important because it shows the judges that you're not just taking STEM and keeping it for yourself, you're spreading it to the community. So first, let's go over a couple different types of outreach. So there's outreach to first and high-tech kids. This might be like volunteering at a tournament or something like that, or whatever capacity we can do that this year. Community is outreach to people who are maybe not necessarily in a first high-tech kids program, but could be. So this might, obviously no state fair this year, but that was an example our team usually did or is planning to do. Also things like putting videos and lessons up on your YouTube channel, that could be an example of reaching out to the community. It's also important to reach out to sponsors and engineers. This might be as simple as setting up a Zoom call with some engineers from local businesses or something like that. Social media is also maybe the most easy thing to do in this time, but it's also one of the most effective ways to reach out, just to let everybody know what's going on with your team, and how they can get connected. And on that topic, counting outreach, as Rebecca said, it just generally go for quality over quantity. So man hours are important. It's important to show your judges that, but also consider how many people you impacted or how many views your post got or something like that. Also, make sure to plan your outreach beforehand. And if you, especially in this year, you're doing something in person and that time is really precious, maybe set up a Zoom call the day before you do that, or just talking to your team group chat about what you plan to do. And initiating events. So some things you can do is maybe you independently host an event, host like a webinar or something like that. That's what it might look like this year. Also, I think as Rebecca will talk about later, your connections with teams are very valuable, especially as far as outreach goes. If you can connect with another team in order to maybe have some sort of virtual webinar system or something like that, that can be a lot more effective because you can reach a lot more people. So feel free to do that. Also reaching out to your sponsors because they might have space where you can hold an event and stuff like that.
So the robot is a very important part of robotics, and especially if you're just starting out as a rookie team, you need parts to build the robot with. And there are a few different systems you can build your robot with. You can use the Tetric system, the Rev system, the Actobotic system. Reach out to some teams to see what would work best for you. Some of them are cheaper and faster. Some of them are more robust. Some of them are more or less complicated. So kind of find which of those systems would best fit your team's needs and then order them as soon as possible because things take a while to ship and you don't want to be wasting valuable time that could be spent building on a robot just wishing you had parts. And also make sure to get extras of things like screws, plates, things that could be used to repair your robot if it breaks during a competition. And also, if you have a team of like 10 people, not everyone can be working on the one competition robot at the same time, but if you have some extra parts, then everyone can at least be experiencing and getting better at practicing building as well. Also, if you're wanting to do things like 3D printing, laser cutting, things like that, reach out to some companies and some of your sponsors if they have some of that equipment that they could either let you borrow or use for a discount. Because if you find companies with that equipment, that means you don't have to purchase things like that, which are very expensive. when you're building your robot, try and kind of come up with an overall grand plan in advance. So we want the chassis done by this week, and we want the grabber done by this week. And so then you can kind of make sure your robot's getting on track so that you know you have something that you can take to the competition. Also keep in mind that your robot doesn't just sit on the table. It actually needs to play and interact with its environment, and that means that it has the potential to get broken. So triangulate things, make sure I's are dotted, T's are crossed, things, corners are rounded, make sure it's robust and it can withstand multiple plays. Also, remember you have a sizing limit. A lot of rookie teams might build something outside the 18 by 18 cube. You got to make sure you stay within that limit. And again, make sure you're planning ahead. And the single biggest hidden tip that we've come up with a team is learn when to stop, as well as being kind of a good thing to learn for your life. Learning to stop adding functionalities to your robot before a competition is really important. So about a week or two before your competition or your tournament, you want to stop adding functionalities and software and fun autonomous things and just work on practicing. This means practicing your driving. A lot of teams have a really cool robot and they don't know how to drive it, and that doesn't work very well. So make sure you're devoting time to practicing driving your robot, practicing your interview, and make sure your robot is consistent, and also gather some hard data as to what your robot can actually do in a competition. So then in the future, if we're looking for alliance partners, you know who you can match up best with.
Another big part of the team is the team budget. Some important things to keep track of in terms of budget are, t-shirts, if your team has any posters or banners. Our team has a banner that we put over the pit area. Electronics and robot parts, that's a big one. Once you get a budget, you'll really be able to decide what robot parts you actually need in terms of like building your robot, because you can't just get everything. And then tournament fees and whatnot for accuracy, and then anything else you want to include into your budget, because it really helps the judges see the whole process your team goes through, and how they, it can give further depth into how your team thinks and stuff like that. Another thing you can do for that is a good way to format it would be date, description of object, cost, and then total budget at the current moment or time of purchase for that. That can put a good frame of reference and help your team plan in the future in terms of what the team needs to do to further the development of your robot.
Fundraising in a digital season. I think it can be really tricky to do fundraising just in general. So in a digital season, it can be a little trickier. I would start by emailing your local businesses. In your email, you're gonna wanna include introducing your team to whoever you're emailing. You're gonna wanna talk about what FIRST is and the mission and the overall impact. You're gonna wanna ask about them. Especially for emails, this is one extra tip too. Don't be too picky about who you send your emails to, and don't feel like you have to be super precise and like, oh, these are good people to send to and these are like, well, not. Just send it to everybody. You never know when you might catch a fish. You never know when it might happen. Just send your sponsorship email, make a template, make a write-up, just send it to tons and tons and tons of people. Because our team, we would send out like 100 emails and we'd get like 15 responses. And then maybe only 10 of them would be interested in the sponsorship, and then we would get actually 5 sponsorships. So go ahead and send out a huge blast of sponsorship emails, and you'll get a bigger return in the end. Also with fundraising, go ahead and schedule Zoom meetings with your sponsors. I think this is a strategy that hasn't been tapped in the past, but it is now during a digital season. Being able to do a Zoom will eliminate the process of having to actually get there and like be at the business, but you can just Zoom with these professionals and these sponsors, and you can easily learn and talk about them and make a relationship with them, and then you can discuss doing a sponsorship with them later. Then last, get creative. There's so many new things that we're learning because it's a digital season. Try new things. Do cold calls, send them letters. We've never sent a letter for a sponsorship, but that might be a good idea. I don't know. Then last tip, put photos of your team and sponsors on social media to raise awareness and put out like a line and let everyone know what you're doing.
All right, so here is just a few quick tips and tricks on the following slides that we have found that really made it successful in the FTC League. Some of these are social media presence, being prepared for the unexpected, team branding, and making connections.
So, especially in a digital season, social media presence is extremely crucial. I would suggest by just starting small. Create an Instagram or a Twitter or a YouTube or a Facebook. I would strongly suggest starting an Instagram account. I think it's extremely user friendly. It's really easy to post your own things and meet new teams and make connections. Some of the benefits of having a social media account include connecting with teams. You never know who you're going to meet on social media. The best part about having a social media account in the FTC community is that you can meet teams outside of Minnesota or outside of the teams that you meet at a normal tournament. You can meet teams from across the country or across the globe even. I met a team over social media this past year that was in Israel, and it was incredible to work with them. Some of the other benefits are learning from other teams. It's really easy to ask questions and learn from other people and see what other people are posting and get a lot of benefits from it. So many people in the FTC community just want to help you and just want to meet your team, and I can't say that enough. Because when I was in a rookie team, I was so shy to talk to anybody, and I almost wasted an entire season because I didn't talk to anybody. So I would strongly suggest as a rookie season, just send out a message to some team, or if you want to get to know somebody, just ask, set up a Zoom call. Just don't waste the opportunity to meet new people, especially during this season. Last but not least, promoting your own brand and team. This is an easy way to promote yourself and be able to have other teams learn about you in the FTC community and learn from other people too. Having social media will make you known more in the FTC world overall.
Okay, and as we've been hearing about a lot over the past few months, it's important to be prepared for the unexpected. So this means, for example, with judging, you want to practice with other people over digital platforms, probably Zoom. And that means you're basically trying to practice judging in an environment that's as close as possible to the actual thing. So look up in the engineering notebook or in the game manual how judging is going to work, and also see if you can pull in some of your sponsors, some of your professionals in the engineering community. A lot of them give a lot of presentations, and they can give you some really helpful feedback on what your interview looks like. Also, for your notebook, you should be familiar with your notebook. A lot of times you put tabs in there. You should be familiar with what are some of the big tabs, some of the big highlights of your notebook. So if your judge asks you, oh, I want to know more about this subassembly, you can say, oh, that's great. Let's look here at tab G. And so you're able to help guide the judges through the notebook. Also, for robot matches, make sure you put together a field kit of either commonly used parts or commonly used tools that you could use if your robot breaks during a match. So you don't have to, in an in-person competition, run all the way back to the pit. You can just fix it right there. And also floor dances like the YMCA, the Cupid Shuffle, any of these are extremely important because it is important to remember that we are building robots and doing adult things. We are also having a lot of fun too. Remember that at the end of the day, this is a great way to build some community and have some fun. So let loose and do a floor dance every once in a while.
Another big thing is building your team brand. A good way to start out with this is getting a good 2 colors for your team. Those are really good bases to your main brand. And another thing is to get your name out there and stuff like that. Print business cards with information like sponsors, social media, where you guys are, where your team is. They'll get if people are interested in joining your team, they'll definitely want one of those. Another really good thing, as some might say, is anything business card does, website does better. Website can have your, it can have your whole brand. It can have anything about your team. It can have your outreach. It can have your social media. It can have a bio on your team. Pretty much anything you want. It's very good. You can even put the website on your business card for a combo. That'd be pretty good. And then finally is getting a team look. For us personally, we have the top hats and dinosaurs and whatnot, but you have other teams like the Green Girls with their green puffy top hats, Piece of Cake with their cake, and Rubies with their ruby. They're pretty popular teams, and they're pretty easy to remember stuff like that. And it's a good way to get your team out there.
The last nugget of information we will leave with you today is the most important part of FTC, and I'm super passionate about it. Making friends and connections. This is super important to me and super special to me because Minnesota has such a strong community in the FTC and FIRST area that I think it's a huge part that you should definitely get involved in and definitely be immersed in. Starting out with local businesses for sponsorships. Make connections and relationships with your sponsors too, so it's a mutual thing and back and forth and you're staying connected with them. Make friends with other teams. Teams will absolutely, like I said earlier, want to help you out. They want to be your friend. They want to get to know you. Make as many friends and connections with as many teams as you can, easily just by sending them a message on Instagram or commenting on one of their posts on Facebook. Just get to know as many teams as you can in your first season, and it will help you out in the long run. Also, go ahead and make connections with volunteers. There are so many volunteers in Minnesota that give up so much of their time to the teams in first, and they love getting to know you and they want to give back to you. So go ahead and get connected with them and meet them too. And last but not least, make friends and connections with us. Our contact information is listed below, and we'd love to Zoom with you or talk more or email back and forth. One of my favorite parts of FTC is working with other teams, and without that, it kind of means nothing to me. So get to know us, get to know other teams. That is the last important part of our information today.
And because that is the last important part of our information today, that's all we've got for you in our presentation, and we would be more than happy to take some questions.
That concludes our presentation. We are now ready for your questions.
Okay, here's a good question that has come in from Twitch. What can rookie teams do for outreach, especially during this COVID-19 season, especially if we don't have a lot of experience? Do you have some ideas just to get these teams started?
Sure.
Oh,
Kirsten, go ahead.
sorry. I was to say, one thing that's just super easy is just like social media. Just, at least for making some first connections, just put yourself out there, show what you have to offer. But another cool and important thing, I think, is like videos. And this doesn't necessarily have to be like first videos. You can just like, our team has been recording some labs or something like that. Just some really easy things. Just, look up a worksheet for whatever, or just, give an introduction to STEM video and put that on a YouTube channel and stuff like that. Also, if you just see if the science teacher at your school could use some help demoing something for their virtual science class or something like that. I think, yeah, there's still a lot of options.
So 2 examples that come to mind right away, especially for a rookie team, I would start with doing a Zoom call with another team. Another team that's either more experienced than you and you can learn from them. That's a super easy one that your entire team can be involved in. Or if you do a Zoom call with a professional that you know or one of your sponsors and just get to know them and talk to them. That's definitely like a really starting step I would do. And as a rookie team and not a digital season, I would still recommend 2 teams getting together because that is outreach, and that's what I would recommend personally.
Great ideas. How about another question that has come in? Do you have a recommendation for what is a good team member size for a rookie team? I mean, are you better off to have a large, 12 people on your team? Is it better to have a smaller subset? What are the disadvantages and the advantages of both?
I would say
Go ahead, Eric.
I would say from my experience, ideal team size is probably between 5 to 7. Once you get teams that are larger than 7, there's only 1 robot and 1 notebook, and it's hard for everyone to have something to do and to be engaged. So a lot of times we've seen success where teams of like 15 or teams of 12 will split into 2 teams of 6 or 2 teams of 7 and 8 or something like that. And once you get into groups that are smaller than 5, it's a lot of work to split among 4, 3, 2 people. So I guess 5 to 7 would be what I would say. But Rebecca, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, to tag on to that, I would say the benefit of a larger team, or not the benefit, but like if you have a larger team, upwards of like 10 or 8 people, I'd say to be successful, be very diligent about giving everyone a specific role that they can complete to their fullest. So then not everyone's flocking to one certain thing. Really be good about like dividing the work and giving everyone a place, because if you have such a big team, sometimes those people on the edges feel like they aren't as important to the team or they feel left out. So if you have a larger team, being able to be like, you are the social media person, or you're going to be in charge of our business sponsorships, or you're in charge of the like certain parts of the notebook, or you're going to be our programming lead. If you can as a larger team, spread out those roles at the very beginning of their season. That's how you can be the most successful, because you start to lose those team members on the edge when they don't feel like they're contributing as much, or they're not being as impactful as other team members.
That's awesome, Rebecca, because I was going to follow up with giving some more ideas of roles that team members can partake in. And so any other roles that you can give rookie teams ideas for things that they could assign people to?
Definitely. Okay, so social media one is a huge one. I would say, so outreach you can split up into two categories: connect and motivate. Motivate is going to be your basic community, like schools or people that aren't in the first community, and then connect is your professionals in STEM. I would say if you have like a build lead, a design lead, that person kind of oversees what like stuff is going on. You can divide your robot into different subsystems. Like you're going to be in charge of the climber, or you're going to be in charge of the intake, and then kind of divide up the robot roles. And then you got CAD, you got 3D printing, you got communication head, you have, you guys add on if you have any, but.
Yeah, these roles also, they don't, at least also for a team of our size too, we often give people multiple roles as well, such as like, head of, robot design, head of, budget or marketing or mechanical, etc., coding. Oftentimes people have more than one role as well.
And I think something
yeah,
that I think something that what Rebecca's saying is alluding to is that to join robotics, robot doesn't have to be your thing. Like there's some super passionate, creative social media people, super passionate formatting people, super passionate outreach people who like building with the tools, that's not their deal, but they love social media. So I would say also tap into those people in their community, in your community, because they are an incredible asset to you, that they can still be part of your group and still have fun, even if they don't love the idea of building a robot.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I think that's the end of our time here. Thank you guys so much for watching and tuning in. All of our presentations and the presentations before us are going to be recorded, and you can find them on the High Tech Kids website. Go ahead and contact us if you have any more questions. But that concludes our presentation. Have a good night, guys, and adios from the design.
All right.
Adios.
I would like to thank the Designers for that great presentation. I would also like to thank the entire audience for joining us tonight for our very first round of Minnesota FTC breakout sessions and our first night of High Tech Kids Twitch TV. It was quite exciting here in the office.